there I'm Mr. West Rossit's Moustache. I'm here at Bailey Hill in York. Just have a little bit of a talk about what happened in 1069 and the construction of a castle on this motte here. So if we jump down and have a little wander up, we can see, just come off the clear city walls there. And up on the top of here, get to the top of what's known as Bailey Hill. Now, this was a castle that was built here by William in 1069. Now, if you look across the river there, you might be able to see through the trees. See if I can get the zoom going. That's Clifford's Tower, and that was the castle that was built sort of after William's reign. However, this castle was built in 1069 in response to a rebellion in the north of England, which would lead William to be involved in what became known as the Harrying of the North. Basically, an almost genocidal program to defeat the people who lived up here and kill almost anybody, innocent or guilty. Now, one of the things I think you need to understand, I don't know how well the camera gets the perspective here, is that William's Normans, they are a invading force. So, obviously York didn't look like that in the 11th century, but the Saxons lived down there with the lords and the people in charge, all lived together, whereas the Normans had to find somewhere for their sort of, well, maybe top end 5,000 people to go to control the 2 million people that are down below. And you can see that right today, by today's standards, look, we're almost as high as the buildings in York. In fact, that building over there is actually a fraction higher than us. But certainly in the 11th century, these are intimidating sort of statements, these mounds of earth with the wooden castle on top. I'm not sure exactly where the Bailey would have been. It might have been over here by the bar walls themselves, or around to the bottom here. But basically up here was where the Normans would stay and issue out, basically, to deal with any kind of rebellion or problem. Now, for the people down there, it was a real statement. Okay, here is an invading force, and look at what they can do. The like, really, with which you've not seen before. The Saxons used burhs to fortify the villages, but they're not on this scale, and they're not as high as this, okay, and not as intimidating. So just to finish off, really, while we're up here, with the census, or if you want to call it that, the Domesday Book of 1086 recalls that of the 1,400 dwellings in York, over 900 were still derelict after the Harrying of the North and the attack on the kind of attack back against the rebellion in 1069. So over 900 dwellings in York were left empty, what, 17 years after the kind of 16, 17 years after the Harrying of the North. Shows you the impact that William's tactics had on an area like this. So here we've got on the actual bar walls themselves like a bit of information. And I think what's nice about this kind of artist's impression is you can really see the sort of impact that these two castles would have had on the people of York. So there's Clifford's Tower that was built kind of initially and then was destroyed as part of the Harrying of the North, then rebuilt again. And then this is Bailey Hill that I've just been walking around, that was obviously built in response to that. You can see that there's a kind of Bailey area there. And both these castles, you can see, would have dominated the York skyline, okay, along with the cathedral that would have been built and developed, but not as high as these, really showing the kind of impact as you approach York. The Normans are in charge, and here are two castles to prove it.